Blog Talk Radio.
Good afternoon, everybody. Vicki here again. We are going to be talking some more on the Superior Court opinion and parent lawyers and how they can mess up filing a case for you and you can lose your children. We are a Pennsylvania Coalition for Family and Parents' Rights. We have a hotline. If you're having trouble with human services, child welfare, the family courts, you can call our hotline for support. It is 206-339-9456. We have an email set up also at info_PACoalition@gmx.com. We are not attorneys, but we have a lot of experience going through the system, and we have opinions on a lot because of all the research that we have been doing and just our experiences as to what happens and what you need to be aware of when you go into the system. We worked on this week contacting the FBI with a lot of the illicit behavior that goes on in the family courts and the child welfare. We handed out the Pittsburgh number as 412-432-4000, or you can fax a complaint to them at 412-432-4188. There's a Harrisburg office, there's a Philly office. I also have the Harrisburg office number here because I'm guessing right now most people listening, that would be their closest. That is 717-232-8686, and their fax is 717-213-2333. Try and put something together. Everybody should be doing this. Let them know how bad it is out here. Hopefully we'll pique their interest. They have actually asked for input if anybody knows of corruption, racketeering, and things going on in the court. Of course, with the Sandusky explosion and Kids for Cash, I think they're starting to realize there's some major issues going on in our courts. Another big thing coming up is the rally at the Lackawanna County Courthouse. Anybody that can make that, it's April 26th from 12 to 3. It's a chance for you to tell your story, and they're also going to have some speakers there. They're having Jesse Epps, who is a Civil Rights Hall of Fame inductee and civil rights advocate, and Andy Ostrowski, who is running for PA's 11th Congressional District seat. He has been doing a lot of good work and really gets where we're coming from with this. The rally is in memory of Georgia Senator Nancy Schaefer, who was a saint in this and unfortunately lost her life fighting for change in the child welfare system because she realized how the Children for Cash circle was going, and when you listen to her on YouTube, you cannot believe how much she knew about what was going on in the courts. We're going to have a couple callers today talking about their experience with parent lawyer and how your tax dollars at some point in time are really getting wasted through child welfare and family courts because of them ordering psych evaluations or putting your child in a Kids Peace hospital or any hospital and then charging the taxpayers to do that. A lot of people don't realize that their tax money is definitely part of this whole circle. Even though they might not have lost a child or a grandchild, they still are paying because of what these courts are ordering for people to do that don't have money, which most of the time they're taking children from families that are poor or that their children have health issues, mental issues, autism, maybe a disability, and then they start collecting that child's SSI, and they're charging the taxpayers for the extra care that child needs as they go through foster care. So we're trying to talk about that. We talked a lot about guardian ad litem and how they are not working for you most of the time. We dug out the Rule 1154 and what their duties are, and most of us realize that our guardian ad litems did not do one thing on their duty list at all. And that mostly meeting with the child beforehand and getting to know that child and their case. Didn't happen in my case, didn't happen in the caller's case. Following up, sticking up for the child, they just don't do that. In my case, the guardian ad litem definitely did not stick up for the child. He never contacted her when she was removed. We had to force him to meet with her in the first place. And then as the months went on, he didn't show up at court hearings or anything. He showed up at the last one, and that was, I'm sure, because CYS pretty much ordered him to do that. Here in front of me, I have a very interesting article, again, on the Pelletier case, because everybody's wondering what really is going on in that case. And this guy wrote an article, and he said that this is just our system, that our government can take our children, and they get away with it. So it's not that it's unique or unusual, and it's not that we're not hearing something, that we're missing something. It's just par for the course, and that's exactly how he says it for the Child Protective System in the United States. Even if especially outrageous, it's what they do. They have no laws to follow, obviously, because we've all been there, and we all have children that are out there flailing around in the system, not being with family, whether it's a mother, a father, a grandmother, aunts, uncles. They're just swept up and taken away. Another interesting thing we're going to be covering today a little later on is access to your court records. Pennsylvania Freedom of Information Coalition has a website that you can actually go into, and there's a lot of information about accessing your records. And you should be entitled to those records. You are entitled to those records, but I definitely understand how they put off giving you those records. So I'm going to get in here, our first caller, and hi, you online?
Yes, I am. Hello, how are you?
I am just fine.
Oh, wonderful.
Are we doing the parent-lawyer discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, if that is okay. First of all, these have been really great shows this week. I just wanted to say that. I had just some questions about things that were discussed yesterday, and I'm hoping even the caller who had called in yesterday might even, be listening now and can call in and can answer some of these things. But basically, I was really frustrated when I was listening, and I actually did some research. I looked up, because all these documents are public. Well, a lot of them. The one was a Superior Court opinion. You can find that online. The other one was an appeal docket sheet, docket number. Again, that's online for the Superior Court. And what I saw was that basically the family, it appeared to me, in my opinion, was assigned an attorney who was not qualified. In this opinion, they've cited her for the fact that her brief was unacceptable. One of the pages of her brief was missing. I mean, if you or I, if this would happen for me at work, I would receive a huge reprimand, at the very least. And this attorney is being paid for with our tax money, and her mistakes cost this family their child. I mean, that is just outrageous. Right. I mean, outrageous. Now, if a doctor does something horrible, that doctor, can be sued. I mean, all of these things. And I feel bad for this family, their child, and the child. How horrible to be taken away from your family because an attorney made a mistake. I tried to actually call this judge, Judge Ullman, and I found out that her name was previously Judge Campbell, okay, and basically tried to call, and they're not picking up their phone, and I basically wanted to know, because there is training that these people are supposed to be undergoing, and apparently the man who had previously done the training, and it was wonderful training, was her mentor in law school. And now she's decided that everybody needs this training, which apparently this lawyer didn't have, and a family and a little girl paid the ultimate price. And I'm angry about that. I'm also angry that my tax dollars, especially in this time, are being used.
Right, and she's still there doing
people.
that. Yeah,
I know, exactly.
She's still an attorney, and she's what I understood from yesterday is they went from 20 of these attorneys that didn't have training, fired them all, went through the training, and only brought 6 back, and she was one of them, and she doesn't even know what she's doing.
Right. Exactly. And so I'm just really frustrated because, one, this Judge Ullman, it appears from my research, and I talked to several people, and I'm not going to name names, but this individual who had done the training was her mentor, and so she decided that she was going to throw him a bone and make it mandatory that everybody went to this training. She got everybody trained again with public tax dollars, and then fired everybody, made them all go through the whole process of rehiring again. Again, somebody conceivably had to go through all those applications again, costing the public more money. They obviously hired, in my opinion, inept people. And now a family is paying the ultimate price, and a little girl has lost her family. And, again, this was done with public tax dollars. And this is very frustrating.
I just wonder, honestly, though, now if this was me, obviously we all know me, I am not going to lay down and let someone roll over me, why they cannot sue this attorney, like what the next step is, or is that's it. That is like completely over because this is a superior court opinion, but they should have recourse against that attorney considering what this opinion says.
Right. Exactly. And I, again, just tried to call, again, the office to get some answers for these questions. And, again, no one's picking up. And I didn't put it on speakerphone just because it keeps going to voicemail. That would be annoying. But I thought it would be nice to get answers. I'm going to try. I think that's important. Yeah, I think so. I don't know if... Yeah. So
I'm reading the legal rep training. I did print that out. Another person had sent that to me, and I am reading over it, and I don't know. It just seems the way it's funded, and see, with children interacting with parents, following approval of the state roundtable, and this was May 2010. It names quite a few counties. The training should be required of all GAL's parents, attorneys, and CYS workers. Well, I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And again, it sounds like it's wonderful training if they actually follow the training. But again, how is this all being paid for? And if tax dollars are being used to pay for this, why isn't there any accountability here? That's a big question, and I just tried again, and I am still just getting the voicemail for this office. So I'm sorry, but it's live radio. You're just never sure what's going to happen.
That's right.
But anyway, thank you for taking my call. And like I said, this just raised a lot of questions for me, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to call in and talk about it.
Well, if you get her on the line, I'll still be here.
All
if you
right.
would happen to get her on
trying.
the line and see what we can find out, that would be wonderful.
Wonderful. I will keep trying. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank
bye-bye.
you. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Another thing that we were talking about yesterday, and I thought that this was really important because I was talking about how all courts are supposed to be open. What we're doing is we're trying to send people into court with those in our group or those that call us for help, because the more people you have in the courtroom supporting you keeps them in line. There's been some reporters that have gone to court. There's just been court watchers that you just go in and sit there quietly, but it keeps them guessing as to why you're there. I have another caller calling in. Hello.
Hi, Vicki.
You are on the air. Hello. How are you?
Hi. I just heard the other caller. I was listening in, and I thought I'd chime in here and remind her, if and when she does get a hold of Judge Ullman's staff, or hopefully the judge herself would be really nice, that the attorney's name is Susan Cortis. And she should probably mention her to the staff of Judge Ullman.
Yeah, well, she said she printed this Superior Court opinion out, so she has it right there. Hopefully she can get her on the line, because I think we're all curious to hear what she has to say about this because of the child now probably, well, it'll probably be adopted out within the month. That's what's scary. So.
That is true. But it's amazing. This attorney can't even do an appeal. What is she doing being paid by the taxpayers of Berks County and not even doing her job? She can't even write an appeal.
What did you learn?
That's amazing.
I know. And what did you learn about accessing your records? Did you learn anything on that?
What records are you talking about?
Well, a lot of people, when they call in, they are having a hard time getting their Children Youth Services records, those records. They just refuse to give them. They delay giving them. They make you jump through hoops and over, trampolines to get your records. Is there a certain
so you're talking about specifically CYS records, the files in CYS? Okay.
Yes.
Well, this has been my experience. You ask them, but I would never ask them on the phone or in person. It would be always by email or letter.
Okay.
I'd write them a letter or an email asking them for access to my file. Now, the regulations do say you have to give them a 2-week notice. So you would say, in 15 days or 14 days, at this time, I'd like to come into the office and inspect the records. They probably will ignore you, not answer you, and then you wait that 15 days. It's going to take a while to get access to the records, just so you know. You wait that time period, you ask them again. Then what I did was I filed a motion with the court to ask them to have to give me access to the records, because they had denied me twice or just ignored me twice. Now, this all changes if you have an attorney. I did not have an attorney at the time. So if you have an attorney, you must ask them to get your records. Have access to your records. And here's the problem. They're parent attorneys. Of course, if you're lucky enough to have a private pay attorney, you have a better chance of getting access to your files. So you do have a right to have that information. Actually, when I filed my motion with the court, the order came back that said not only did I have the right to go in there and inspect everything in my file, I had the right to photograph or copy every document.
Well, that's what people need to be doing, so they have that, because don't you agree they will be so amazed at all the lies that are in those files?
Well, I'm not sure that they're going to find the lies, because I think there's certain things. That's why you have to give them a 2-week notice.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, seriously, does it take them 2 weeks to go back in a drawer and pull your file out and let you look at it?
I was reading in Schuylkill County how when a lot of times when these caseworkers leave, they shred a lot of the stuff that they even had, that then it's just gone, disappeared. You know, if they, you know, say they feel the hammer coming down around them, they just go and shred a good part of what they were doing, so it can't be tracked back to them.
I wouldn't doubt that. I wouldn't doubt that at all. This is the first time I'm hearing of this, but it certainly makes sense.
I know when
they do everything.
I know when my foster children, that you get a chance to correct things.
Those files.
Yeah, of course, definitely. And if you do get that chance, I think we had discussed this before, when you meet with these people, if you have to deal with them, you want a copy of what they're writing, and when you get home, you do an overview of what happened at that visit or that meeting and send it to them. Always have that paper trail of emails and paper, not phone calls and things that you can't prove.
Right. And there's also a tracking, and I believe one of your callers had mentioned this before. When you send an email, there's different email tracking programs that you can, and they're fairly reasonably priced. They're pretty cheap. You can attach to your email, and it lets you know when they read it, how long they read it, if they forwarded it somewhere else, if they reopened it. You know all that.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea. That was the first I ever heard of that, too, and that's a really, really handy tool when you're dealing with these people, for sure.
Yes, because they will say, I never got your email. They will say, it never came. Maybe you sent it to somebody else, and you know you sent it to the right person. But if you have an email tracker, that's and I believe if you have AOL, I believe that has a tracker in the program, so you wouldn't even have to install something in your computer.
Yeah, I'm going to look into that more so I can actually hand out that information for some of our people that are really in the heat of going through this right now. Need all the help they can get, for sure.
And have you ever discussed, and we may have, in so many shows, so much information, so, it may have been discussed before, but writing up a declaration of the facts.
No, I don't think we did.
Journal.
Oh, yeah, the timeline we talked about, yeah.
Well, the declaration of the facts, too. Once you get their issues, if you're lucky enough to get them, you write your declaration of the facts. Okay, if they say Johnny didn't go to school for 3 days, all right. Well, Johnny was sick, and I took him to the doctor, and here's the doctor's note to prove it. Kind of like a counter affidavit to what they're saying, but it's called a declaration of facts. And there's a really good website where you can go on and read about that. It's a fightcps.com website.
Yeah, you know what? There's so much information out there, and everybody is really so lucky because you can really educate yourself nowadays going up against this. I can't imagine what they did years ago. Well, they didn't. That's how it got so out of control. But now everybody's getting smarter and so on top of this, and has support groups like Pennsylvania Coalition for Family and Parents' Rights helping them. I actually had someone from Schuylkill County that called me with a case, and she said that the supervisor actually said to her, "Have you been talking to Vicki?" So I have a feeling they're pretty on to the fact that I am helping these people out. Because that is the first I heard that. I said, "You are kidding me." She said, "Nope, that's exactly what she said to me." Because I went in there very prepared. She has her timeline, and I told her about the documentation of the visits when she had a visit with her children, and of course it's supervised, and writing everything down and then sending them a copy certified to make sure that they, you wrote down what happened there. So
yeah. And speaking of visits, I just thought of something. A little while back, and I'm not sure if it's still continuing. No one has said anything to me, so it may be that in Berks County at least, the problem has been solved. But in the past, we had complaints from parents that they would go to see their children at the visits, and caseworkers or the supervisors would tell them they are not allowed to take pictures of their children.
Huh.
Someone's telling you can't take a picture of your own child?
Wow.
So we made complaints to DPW and to the local CYS, to the judges, and I believe the problem here in Berks County, for the most part, has been taken care of. I haven't had anything for quite a while about that. But just for the people that are listening from other counties, if that's going on, that's a violation of regulation. You are allowed to take pictures of your children.
Good information. There's another thing they could be trying to get away with.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of any other things like that they might be telling parents that they can't do? And I know something I wanted to ask you. Were you on the day that I was talking about the person that called me and said she was being charged for the visits, and then that video thing came out that the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Independent Gazette came out? She was being charged to visit her children, $125 per visit. Can they do that?
I don't believe I was. Well, is that through a CYS case or a family court case?
CYS. It's actually, I think, don't hold me to this, but it's either Luzerne or Lackawanna, I'm thinking. It's that direction. Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, it's up that area. There was actually a very good, they taped. I know, I don't get it. I don't see how that they could even be getting away with that. I never heard of it. Because she said she's having a hard time getting that kind of money together so she can really, she'd like to see her children every week. She can't afford it. And, so it's like once a month because that's all she can get out of, working and being able to pay to see these kids. I never heard of that. That's something I didn't catch.
I don't see how they're getting away with that. I'm pretty sure that's a regulation violation. She needs to contact the DPW, the state office. You said it's up in Lackawanna or Luzerne. I would be the northeast region of DPW. She needs to contact somebody up there and inform them of what's going on. I haven't had any complaints from anybody that they had to pay for visits with their children if it's through CYS. Now, private family court with custody, that's a different issue. Sometimes parents do have to pay. But with CYS, the state or the county, somebody pays for that. I mean, there are agencies that do the visits, so somebody's going to get paid. I don't believe it's the parents paying. I mean, I have not had a complaint about that.
Well, I found it pretty scary and quite disturbing that could even be going on, as with the ordering of psych evals. And the previous caller, I know we had been talking where, this ordering and forcing people into these psych evals, I mean, the whole family. I mean, sometimes the whole family gets drug in, but even if it's just yourself, they're expensive. And I think she said she had like 5, and then the one they decided to pay for, and the guy asked her like 3 questions. It's not any cheaper, but they decided to pay for, which is tax dollars. Again, they're using the tax dollars to get this stuff done, to get things to go their way, because obviously you don't have a choice as to what doctor you go to. And that's why you always need to be prepared. You should have a choice, but I think we talked about that. How do you get around that court order? Because I know when I was court ordered to see a certain doctor to get the evaluation, I didn't feel I had a choice to go outside of that court order except to pay for a second one, which would have been $800. And, of course, as a single mom, I did not have that kind of money.
Once the order is issued, you really need to abide by that order. But you could always appeal, but what happens in the meantime? Appeals take so long.
Right. Right, and like Christy, when she called in, what?
This family member that is paying for visits up in this other county, I'm wondering if that isn't, CYS likes to reduce your visits and reduce them all until they get to your termination. I'm wondering if that isn't a way for them to reduce the visits, but them not actually doing it because maybe they can't get a judge to order it.
Yeah, because it seems like, it's always the cash thing. You can't write a check. You can't, you have to have the cash, which is, as we all know, untraceable. You don't get a receipt. You know what I mean? I don't know. It just seems really scammy to me. If I be them, I'd be doing the FBI reports because that's crap, just like getting forced to go to those blood labs for drug testing that are their blood labs. And you have to have cash. And Christy was saying how her psych eval doctor, he demands that you have to have cash. She can't use insurance. I mean, what's wrong with that picture? Something's definitely going on there. Raises a red flag to me when someone says cash only and they're in those positions, because you should be able to have records of everything that you're doing with these people, everything that they're forcing you to do. So,
that's true. I'll tell you, here in Berks County, one of the big issues right now is lack of translators. There's a lot of Spanish-speaking people in Berks County.
Yes.
And, matter of fact, in Reading, in the city of Reading, I believe they may be the majority at this point. I'm not sure. I don't have the demographics, but a lot of the families that CYS works with are these Spanish-speaking families. And a lot of them don't speak English at all. We just got a call about 2 weeks ago. A young lady is being told to sign papers. She doesn't know what she's signing. The caseworker was sitting there telling her what the papers say. She doesn't understand what the caseworker is saying because the caseworker is talking English. She doesn't understand English. And so she had a friend that's bilingual call our group and ask for help. Well, there's just something wrong about that. So we're working with that, but that's been a problem. It seems to me that common sense says if you have a population that's, so heavily Hispanic speaking, you should have some caseworkers at CYS that speak Spanish.
God knows our hospital's loaded with them. I mean, there's, all the hospitals have them everywhere. They have to because, like you said, it's just so, that's mostly what's going on in the cities. Nowadays, it's the Latinos and Mexicans, and they don't speak English. Guess they're working on trying to amend that, but that's another show. I was just reading this Rule to Show Cause, and I read here just, you have to really read this stuff, and it's amazing how they write this up, that in my case, and we all know that the removal of the child was not court-ordered, but yet on here it says that it was. It appears. This is another big word they use. It appears the removal of the child from appellant's home was court-initiated. It's such a lie. The court had nothing to do with it until after the fact. There's so many things that they get around. This is what's going on, too.
Now that you said that, I'm finding out. Now when people call us, I'm asking them, well, how did CYS take your child? A lot of them are telling me this. CYS called me up, asked me to come in for a meeting and bring the child just so they could see them. They get in there to CYS. They take the child with children with them. CYS says, we're going to put your child in the playroom and we're going to have a meeting. And they don't see that child anymore. CYS takes them. Now, there's no court order. They need a court order to take a child or imminent risk, imminent danger. Where's the imminent danger when they're saying, bring your child in here?
Yeah, I know. I'm hoping that with all these filings and everything that we're doing, that we are going to start getting some answers. We should soon start, as far as I'm seeing now, with everything that I've sent in the last few days, should start hearing something back from these people. Because I have definitely left a lot of stuff fly out of my office just in this week. I hit up all the FBI. Of course, I said I didn't get nothing really great back from the ACLU, but that's why I want people to keep writing to them, because they have to see that there is a huge amount of people before they're going to move. just like I guess attorneys for anybody want, like, with these class action suits, they want to see some wins. They want to see people succeeding and getting somewhere before they're going to take on, everybody's case. And even though I think all of us have really good cases, and Lord knows some of us have way, way solid cases than others, I hear other people's cases, I think, God, mine's like nothing compared to yours. And I'm just hoping to see some wins come out. I know that we have someone at court today doing a deposition and really concerned about her because it just is brutal. I hate those days. I hate what they do to you and how you feel going through it. It's nerve-wracking, and you just don't know how they're going to twist and turn everything to and not have a good outcome. It's terrible. I feel for people going through that. So
my thinking is always the children, and how can these people sit up there on the 11th floor of the courthouse and watch the parents cry because they go to court and the judge decides we're going to take your child away from you today, okay? How can they live with themselves? How can they sleep at night when they watch the parent crying for that child? They watch the child screaming and crying to go home with mommy or daddy or grandma or whoever, had custody of them. How can they sleep at night? I mean, think about it. Their job is taking children away from parents.
Yep, and they're laughing the whole time. They're so cocky. Well, was that yesterday we were discussing, in my case, the caseworker, the director, the judge, nobody has children, nobody has a clue. They're just clueless. They've never had a child, and they just hate anyone out there that has them, and they're taking them. That's just how I feel about it, because I see no compassion at all, none. There was no compassion, not just for us as adults, but for the children themselves. There was just no compassion there. I actually witnessed the worst form of child abuse in this over 7 months that child was with me. The worst abuse was what Kids Peace and Schuylkill County CYS did to that kid. That is ridiculous, considering what they're supposed to be doing. But they get away with it because they are CYS and they are Kids Peace. It's just not a healthy thing, not at all.
You know what we need to do? We need to start looking for foster children that have aged out, these young adults, and start having them call in or interview them.
Well, I can tell you mine will. I feel very confident when she turns 18, she's going to be spilling her guts because her book is still here. I have it half written, and I know that she was so looking forward to seeing it. I have sent every one of the lawsuits that have been won by these kids, and there is a lot right now, and they are multi-million-dollar lawsuits that these kids are filing once they age out against the people that did this stuff to them. I don't know what these caseworkers, judges, and GALs and everybody's thinking, but kids grow up, and I say this every day, not only to realize who the abusers are, but they grow up, and they can file lawsuits because it's, especially with the work that Mark Rossi is doing on trying to get the statutes even extended out there farther, that you have a long time to file against people that abused you. And definitely she has a good case, especially against a caseworker that had her in care all these years and never protected her one time, never left her bond, never protected her, and actually did more abuse to her and knew she was being abused and didn't do anything. So don't trust any of them.
They really protect their foster parents. They really do.
Well, sometimes it just breaks your heart when you get a child like that that's been through been to hell, and you have them on an honor roll student and getting on with their life and planning for college and planning what they're going to do to move forward, and then having these people just totally erase that, just totally take it away from them. I heard someone, did they call in, or I was talking on the phone, said that All the toys and everything she bought for her child, the foster family never gave back to her. And I said, I'm going to tell you a story right now. Everything that I had done for my foster child, and that included making several $100s it cost me to get all her baby pictures that I could get and family pictures with the help of her mom and her dad and her stepmom, and put together a really nice hope box for her. It had in just a lot of different things throughout her life. We spent a lot of money on it, a lot of time. I was trying to tell this lady, when Kids Peace came to pick up my daughter's stuff, it included things that my husband made for her, her clothing, a stereo we had just bought her, and that hope box. Them jerks at Kids Peace never gave her that box with all her personal pictures in, her music, her personal stuff. They kept it. So it's not necessarily the foster parents a lot of times. It's people like Kids Peace that just think they're entitled to keep these kids' stuff. And I don't know why they do it. It makes no sense to me because when you become a foster parent, you have to do those hope boxes. You're supposed to get pictures of them and keep adding to that box so they can take it forward if they move on. And then they keep them and I guess destroy them. I don't know what they do with them. But I wrote a letter to make sure that she knew everything I sent her, and I hid it in the back pocket of her jeans that I knew were her favorite, so she would find that letter, and she knew then what all they did not give her. So that's crappy, and that's the kind of stuff that these people will do. It's not necessarily always the foster parent. But anyway, onward with, I have just some other stuff here I want to go over as good information for people. I don't know if we have some new listeners today. I see that there's quite a few out there. I know a lot of you are afraid to call in. I totally understand the retaliation thing. I'm surprised it hasn't been done more. It was done to me through my case. Taking my child out of here was total retaliation. So I get that. But you're welcome to call in and be anonymous. You don't have to give your name, where you live. You can just talk about your case and tell us your experience. But I do have some stuff here I'm just going to go down through. I don't know if you want to chime in on these as I'm doing this, but
well, I'm gonna let you go so you can
okay.
Make your announcements and then close your show with your little comments that you make, which are always pretty cool. So I will talk to you again another time, and I'll be listening.
Okay, thank you for all your help and all your info. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I know that I've done this before, but I think this is really crucial, and as we're getting more new listeners and everything, you, like I said, can call in if anything hits a nerve with you, but there's some really good information that you should have, and there's things that you should be doing if you're approached by these people, or if you have a child that you're trying to get back. You know, there are steps that you can take, and it's really hard because it's time-consuming. Nobody wants to deal with the courts. It can be difficult. But first things first, and I think I say this, I try and say it several times a week, do not let Children and Youth Services into your home without a warrant or a court order. Ever. They do not need to. They have no legal right to enter your home. If CYS lies to get the judge to issue a warrant or an order, and you can prove it, that is a 4th and 14th Amendment rights violation, which is a civil right violation under 1983, and conspiracy against rights covered under 1985. If they come to your door and they don't have a warrant and they threaten to call the police, and I just spoke to someone about this with the police getting involved, it is illegal and unlawful, and both lose immunity when that happens. It's coercion, it's threatening, it's intimidation tactics. If CYS gains entry with the help of police, both of them can be sued. Don't ever forget that. If they did it to you, look into doing it. They don't have a legal right to conduct any investigation of your child or any child abuse or neglect in the private home without your consent. Don't give it. Do not give them consent. Really, if they're removing a child from your home or school without your consent, that's a seizure under federal law. CYS cannot support a warrant or order or show a child in imminent danger along with probable cause, they cannot enter your home. They did mine. I'm sure they did yours. That's just what they do. They cannot do it. And remember, anonymous calls to CYS are never probable cause under a warrant clause. That's not probable cause because they got a call saying, oh, my neighbor's doing this or my ex is doing that. That's not probable cause to get a warrant. Even if they have a name and number of the caller, they still cannot enter your home. You need to be starting that timeline journal. Like the previous caller just said also, too, if like your declarations of facts, if they're saying it was because your child was out of school, you know, this, and this, they want to come to your home, you need to have the rebuttal of that, you know, what really was going on. No, they were sick. I took them to the doctor. I have proof of that. But you need to keep that timeline. From the first contact you have with them, any phone call, meeting, visit, et cetera, whatever, keep that. Write down exactly what happens, and actually you can send a copy to the caseworker. Keep that paper trail going so that there's no room for discrepancy. You have every right to know who filed a complaint against you, who made a phone call against you. You have the right to know that. Don't sign anything. Take what they want you to sign and tell them you'll have your attorney review it, and make sure you tell your children the same thing. Don't sign anything. They cannot make you sign things. They will. Trust me, I've seen this done. They will have you sign something, and it will take your parental rights away and lead your child to being adopted because they know how to do it. It's their business. Any court-appointed attorney is usually working with CYS and not for you. Not always. That's not always the case, but more than not, if an attorney is appointed to you, he is working for them. And I spoke before how I talked to a guardian ad litem, and he told me that he could be disbarred if he went against CYS. And that's exactly what he said, and that's how I took it, because I even questioned him. It's a conflict of interest for him to go against CYS, so where does that leave you? And I know a lot of people can't afford attorneys, but these people are not your friends. No one in CYS is your friend. They will try and act like they're your friend so they can get more and more information out of you. They will try and get in your home so they can say it's dirty or you don't have milk or your litter box is disgusting. So they do not need to be in your home. When and if you're approached about having your children removed, make an appointment with your doctor. Have the children go through a thorough exam so it's on record that they were healthy and wound-free, because these people will try and say differently. So try and have that backup by the doctor that you use for your children. And try and have, this is always a good thing, if you're, like most people that I've talked to in the last week, are really under surveillance, I guess you want to call it, by CYS. They loom around. You know that something's going to happen. You feel like you could lose your kids within, the next week, the next month. Make sure that you get a hold of relatives if you have them, sisters, brothers, grandparents, anybody that can take that child immediately so that it doesn't end up in the foster care system. Try not to go alone. If you do have to go to CYS or meet with them or they have to do visits in your house, try and always have a witness there. It's a very good thing. We actually have signs up, and I've been wanting to post this about warning them about coming into your house, and they could be videotaped or recorded. We should actually have them made up as magnets so everyone could have them. But try and always have someone with you. At court, at visits with them, it's okay to be polite to them. You don't have to be mean to them, but make sure they know that you know your rights. Educate yourself and do not back down to their intimidations. They are not your friend. If you are treated rudely or threatened by your caseworker, report them. Chain of command is the caseworker supervisor and then the director and then your county commissioners and then the Department of Welfare. And a lot of people, have found out these chains don't necessarily work, the chain of command, but you need to have that paper trail and make sure it is a paper trail. I know you have to call the Department of Welfare, But like we did with the FBI, we call the FBI, you make your complaint, you follow it up with a letter. This is what we talked about. This is what is going on. Just always follow it up with that paper trail and make sure you get the person that you talk to. Which you can't do this with the FBI, but Department of Welfare or your county commissioners, just follow up with the paperwork to that person, get their name and information. Anything they give you, read it carefully. And if there is any mistake on there, make sure that you make them correct it. And then ask for a copy of that corrected paperwork and anything that they have documented. Getting your records or files is your right, but they will make it difficult. We just talked about this. You can get them, but, yeah, they're not going to make that easy. And keep copies of everything you have. Keep one set of documents, if you can, with you at all times and one off-site from where you are, just in case anything would happen, like a fire or a burglary, that you have those papers. That paper trail is probably going to be so important to you winning your case or getting them out of your life. Keep them all your records in order, keep them secured. I think we talked about not permitting conference calls unless everyone that's listening that's at that conference call identifies themselves and write down who they are. Don't let your caseworkers use cell phones during your visits with you or your children, because most likely they are either taping or texting or doing something that is about you, and they don't need to be on their cell phone if you're in a meeting. Everybody has cell phones, and you can record with them and everything nowadays. Obviously, you have to let them know that that is happening. I did that here in my home. When you are going to do that, you have to let them know. Of course, you can't do it secretly. When the director and the caseworker were informing me that I had no constitutional rights in the Schuylkill County Courthouse, someone there that I didn't even know had a cell phone and recorded that for me. And, yes, I do have that recording. So it's, something like that happens in the courthouse. Look around you, because sometimes people see something that's really out of line going on, like a caseworker telling someone they don't have constitutional rights and yelling at a foster parent, and they think that that's odd, and they could have taped it for you. And they'll be very willing to send it to you because it means nothing to them. So you never know. There's cameras and tape recorders everywhere nowadays. It's usually better to hire an attorney that a friend or someone you know trusts, just because if they did good work for them, you might have a little bit more of their history and their work ethic and be able to trust them. CYS calls you, it's probably really good to let it go to voicemail until you are, prepared to speak to them. And, depending what they leave on their message, sometimes they might just say call, but if they leave some kind of details, I just let it all go to voicemail, and that way you can be really prepared and have what you need in front of you when you call them back. If possible, try to avoid those in-chamber chat sessions that they try and do. As far as I understand, all courts are open, and everything should remain open. If you have family there, and you should try and take people there that are in support of you, I plan on doing this for my foster child when her case comes up. Fill that courtroom with whoever you can, or even just one friend, so that there is someone else there to witness what is going on. I told the people going in my case to do this, but they didn't. But I would ask any caseworker or CYS person giving testimony to agree to forgive immunity, so that if they lie, they can be held accountable. Of course, they probably aren't going to do that, but it would seem pretty odd to the judge, I would imagine, if they don't, because why would they not forgive immunity if they're going to tell the truth? Social workers and any government employees can be sued for deprivation of civil rights under 4.2, the United States Constitution, 1983. I talked about this earlier. If they are named in their official and individual capacity, there is no immunity if the caseworker took actions with malicious intent to cause deprivation of rights, like the caseworker in my case did, or they violated established statutory or constitutional rights, which she did. A supervisor or a director, and this is so important, they are liable also. If they told that caseworker to do what she did to you and your family, she's just as responsible as that social worker. She's just as liable as that social worker because she told to, ordered to, set in motion the acts that the social worker was doing or refused to tell the social worker to stop. The director at Schuylkill County stood right there when the caseworker told me I had no constitutional rights. So she is just as guilty, and I'm hoping the lawsuit that I'm planning on sending their way will bring that to light. Parents have the right to have care, custody, and nurture their children. It cannot be denied without violating the fundamental principle of liberty and justice, which are the base of all of our civil and political institutions. It is the right protected by the 1st, 5th, 9th, and 14th Amendments. You have the right to have custody of and nurture your children. It's not their right, it's your right as their parent. They will often steal children, and this is going on a lot in Mifflin County, that are mentally or physically challenged or of poor families in domestic violence or divorce situations. That's how they get to your children. I know some people listening today have the not necessarily the divorce, but the separation, and the mother takes the child and disappears to Timbuktu and doesn't let anyone else in the rest of the family see that child, and gets away with it because it's so hard to track them down. It's so hard to force the courts to do anything. But even if you're paying child support, even if you're not paying child support, you have a right to see your child, and you should never give up fighting for that, ever. Again, the FBI, we are doing that. Department of Justice, you can write letters there. Any of your, depending where you are, we still need liaisons, by the way, for many counties. So anybody that wants to be a liaison for a county and work on gathering that group or doing rallies or certain things in your counties, call us. That would be great. Again, we're the Pennsylvania Coalition for Family and Parents' Rights. Our hotline is 206-339-9456. That's also our fax number if you need to fax back consent and ethics forms. We have an email address, info_POcoalition@gmx.com. If you have issues with human services, child welfare, family courts, that's what we're here. We're here to support. We're not attorneys, but we have a lot of experience, and there's a lot of us doing research and trying to bring this information to you. We are on Facebook. I also have a blog called Vicki and Robizonia that has a lot of good information on it, and most people that are out there, those sites have my number and my email that you can send me things or ask questions. If you can't make it for the radio show, let me know, because I am scheduling some nighttime shows in the near future if I have callers that would like to be on the show. Thank you for my call-ins today. Some big news coming up, and I am so looking forward to this. I found out today that we could very possibly be talking with Sean McMillan from California, and he is an awesome attorney, and he started a lot of this movement, and I am looking very forward to talking to him. So that is going to be a big show, and I will try and give everybody a real long heads up on that. As soon as I know, you will know, so everybody can tune in, maybe call in and ask your questions, and we're going to be honored definitely to have him on the show. So that's it for today. I will be back on Monday, and I will take callers and suggestions for shows anytime. Everybody have a great weekend.